All right, boys and girls. So today, this is your warm up. It's on page series 1, page 3, same one that we completed from Friday. So Friday you did 1, 2, and 3 on that page. Today you're doing 4, 5, 6, and 7. So go ahead and pause your video while you work on your warm up. All right, so you should be back from working on your warm up. So I'm just gonna give you quick tips on how you should have solved these. I'm not solving out any of these. So for number 4, it says in the diagram below, angle X is congruent to angle Z. So congruent means what? Yeah. So if you said that it means they are the same, that is correct. Okay. So we're looking at angle X and angle Y. Sorry, angle X and angle Z. I don't know why I said Y. Sorry, X and Z. So which equation can be used to find the measure of angle X? So you want to know the measure of angle X. So first of all, you need to know how many degrees are in a straight line. So how many degrees are in a straight line? So if you said 180, you are correct. A straight line equals 180. Okay. So you need to figure out, so you know your total is going to be 180. We know that because we said our straight line equals 180. So looking at angle Y, how much does angle Y measure? Okay. So if you said angle Y measures 90 degrees, you are correct. You have a right angle here. So Y equals 90. Okay. So now you're going to write an equation using those two, okay? And so which of those answers is the correct equation? All right, so for number 5, it says when the value of X is 48, which equation is true? So it gives you the value of X. So what you have to do here is you have to take this X value and plug it into the X and solve each one of those equations. So for example, for A, you would have 24 plus 1/2 times negative 48 is equal to 12. Okay, then you would solve that using GEMDAS to see if when you solve it, it equals 12. Okay. B would be similar, except for X, you would have negative 48 over 2 minus 4 equals negative 22. So you would solve it to see if it is correct. Okay. You can substitute like that, or you can solve it the way you would solve an equation and solve for X. So the other option would be 24 plus 1/2 X equals 12. Okay. And then what would be the first step? Well, the first step would be to subtract 24. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And then you have to see if X gives you an answer of negative 48. Okay. So those are the two ways you can solve. Honestly, the easiest or best way to do it would be to substitute. Okay. All right, so moving on to number 6. So Mr. Garza's florist shop. At Mr. Garza's florist shop, 1.5 dozen roses cost $38.70 in dollars and cents. What is the cost of a single rose? So you want to know what is the cost of a single rose? So you need to know he's 1.5 dozens cost that much. So because you are looking for a single rose, that means you are finding unit rate. Okay, so how much would one rose cost? You need to know how many roses are in 1.5 dozens. So how many roses are in 1 dozen? Okay, if you said 12, you are correct. So then you need to know how many roses are in 1/2 dozen. Okay, and then if those two would together would be the total number for 1.5 dozens, and then you have to find the cost for 1 rose. Okay. Number 7 says 6 out of the first 10 vehicles that entered a parking lot were cars. Based on this information, if 540 vehicles entered the parking lot, how many vehicles would be expected to be cars? So we want to know how many vehicles would be expected. So this is a prediction problem, essentially. So we're trying to predict how many of those would be cars. So when we're talking about predictions, we have to do what? Okay, if you said we had to set up a proportion, you are correct. Okay, so you're going to set up a proportion, and here it gives you a ratio of 6 out of 10. So that's one of your ratios for your proportion. It says vehicles that enter the parking lot were, so based on this information, 540 vehicles. Okay, so you're going to use those two to set up your proportion. Not going to solve them out. You should be able, you should have already solved them out if you didn't use this information to solve them. Okay? So now we have circumference and area of circles. So we're going to look at these statements, and we're going to decide if we're either trying to calculate circumference or area for each one of these statements. So go ahead and take some time to read over the statements and decide, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so pause your video for about a minute and then come back. All right, so you should have already decided what, if it's circumference or area that we're trying to find. So A says the distance around a Ferris wheel. Okay, so if we're, well, one, a Ferris wheel is round, right? That's the round ride that has like little baskets and it goes round and round. Okay, so this is essentially my drawing of a Ferris wheel. Okay, so if we're going around a Ferris wheel, would that be area or circumference? If you said circumference, you are right, or you are correct. Okay. So now B says the amount of paint needed to paint a bullseye. So if you don't know what a bullseye is, it kind of looks like the Target logo. Okay, kind of like that. So the amount needed to paint a bullseye. So if I'm filling in or painting it, am I doing the area or circumference? Okay. If you said area, you are correct. Okay. So C says the amount of whipped cream needed to go around the edge of a pie. So you bake a pie and you're trying to put whipped cream on the edge. Is that going to be area or circumference? Okay. If you said circumference, again, you are correct. Okay. All right, moving on to our next slide, our guided practice. This is our first guided practice. We have, I believe, 3 guided practice, and then we have the independent practice that we do and you do. Whoops. Sorry. I hit my screen and it went forward. Okay, so guided practice number 1. So Jennifer painted a table that is shaped like a circle. The circumference of the tabletop is 6 pi feet. Which measurement is closest to the area of the tabletop in square feet? So we want to know which measurement is closest to the area of the tabletop. Okay. So this gives us circumference and we're trying to find area. Okay. So it means we're going to have to work a little bit backwards. It says the tabletop is shaped like a what? So what shape is the tabletop? It's shaped like a circle. Okay. Whoops. And it says the circumference of the tabletop is what? So what's the circumference? Okay, so the circumference is 6 pi. Okay. You are asked to find the measurement closest to the Are we finding the measurement closest to the diameter or the area? If you said area, you are correct because it is right here of the tabletop. So here, if it tells us that circumference equals 6 pi, looking at your reference chart, which formula does that resemble? Okay. So if you look on your reference chart, you have two formulas. C equals 2 pi r, and C equals pi times diameter. So what formula does that look like? If you said the diameter formula, you are correct. Okay. So what does that mean for 6? Okay. So if you said that means that 6 is our diameter, you are correct. But we're looking for area. So what formula do we use? What is our formula for area of a circle? Okay. Okay, so if you said your formula for area of a circle is A equals pi r squared, you are correct. Okay, and what number do we typically use for pi? Or what number should we use for pi? 3.14 is correct. And then, do we know our radius? No, we don't. We know our diameter. But can we use our diameter to find our radius? Yes, that is correct. We can. And what do we need to do with our diameter to find our radius? Divide by 2 is correct. So remember, radius equals diameter divided by 2. So our radius would be 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So that means that we're going to have 3 squared. And remember, what does the squared mean to do? Okay. Okay, so if you said the squared means 3 times 2, that is not correct. If you said the squared means 3 times 3, that is correct. Okay, so remember, 3 times 2 is not the same thing as 3 times 3. Okay, so it's 2 times, not 3 times 2. So now you would finish solving that out and find which answer is closest to that answer. Okay, I'm not going to solve it. I think you're able to multiply those last two numbers. So we have 3.14. 3 times 3, 9. That is correct. So you're simply just multiplying 3.14 times 9. And then that should give you your answer. All right.